When it comes to tennis, it's such a difficult game to handle from the mental standpoint. And Anisimova could have easily went on a big time slump after losing that Wimbledon final 0-0. And I was so happy to see that Amanda recovered from this loss, possibly took confidence from making the Wimbledon final, possibly learned tough lessons in that Wimbledon final, and she has found her best tennis at this year's US Open. It is so unbelievable that she was able to beat Iga Swiatek, who didn't play a bad match in the quarters, who had won Cincinnati prior to the US Open. Amanda took her out in straight sets. We missed the first game on the ESPN coverage. We didn't get to see that one, but it was Iga who broke Amanda in the very first game. And that second game was so crucial for Amanda because she broke right back and went on a roll after that. And that roll has not stopped because in the semifinals against Osaka, she played incredible tennis, but so did Osaka. The match started with Osaka playing solid tennis, and she had a great opportunity to win this set very easily. She found herself up 2-0, love 40 on the Anisimova serve. And if she gets that double break, I think the chances are high that Osaka wins this first set very comfortably. But Anisimova held that game, and that was a crucial moment in this entire match. Yes, even though this happened very early in the first set, this was a crucial point in the match because from this moment on, this match was unbelievably tight. Osaka broke Anisimova again, went up 5-3, was serving for it at 5-4, loses her serve. They go into a tie break, and Osaka plays excellent tennis and wins the first set 7-6. Now, in the second set, there are a lot of breaks very early on, and also a lot of breaks later on in the set. Osaka never was a break up in the second set, so she was not that close to taking this match. It was Anisimova who was up a break through the vast majority of the second set. And then once we got into a tie break, it can go both ways because a player who had chances to win the set prior might struggle from a mental standpoint in the tie break and lose it. But in this instance, it was Anisimova who played more solid and won that second set 7-6. Now in the third, Amanda is playing extremely well. She breaks serve early, goes up 4-1, 5-2, and she's serving for it at 5-3. She has 2 match points. Osaka saves both of them. And on the next point, deuce, Anisimova hits a very good second serve at 93 miles an hour, I believe. And Osaka blasts a return right down the middle that knocks Anisimova over. So Osaka gave herself a great opportunity to get back into this match. But Anisimova was so mentally strong and was playing such fearless tennis in important moments. Her aggressiveness helped her to get the next few points and win this match 6-3 in the third. Making the US Open final after that difficult loss to Iga in the Wimbledon final is an incredible accomplishment from a mental standpoint because the game is there. Amanda Anisimova, when she is at the top of her level, she's so dangerous. She has the best two-handed backhand on the WTA Tour. She can hit it anywhere on the court, especially when she goes down the line. She hits the ball very flat, very low, and very deep into the court. It's an incredible weapon, but also her forehand has improved a lot throughout the years. Early in her career, it was the forehand that was shaky, but she had made some changes to her forehand, improved her timing, and the forehand has become a weapon as well. Not only off the ground, but also on the return of serve, which in my opinion is the best on the WTA Tour on the backhand side, and she also has one of the best forehand returns on the WTA. I wouldn't call it the best because there are a lot of great forehand returns on the WTA. For example, her final opponent, Sabalenka, has an incredible forehand return. But on the backhand return, AA is very similar to the real AA, Andre Agassi. So from a tennis standpoint, Amanda is at the top of the game. But from a mental standpoint, again, it is unbelievably impressive to me that she was able to recover from that Wimbledon final. I quite frankly had my doubts whether she was going to be able to do this. The second semifinal between Sabalenka and Pegula was a high-level match. Both of these women's semifinals were high-level matches and very entertaining to watch. And Sabalenka played well in the first set, but Pegula was playing great tennis. Sabalenka breaks, is up 4-2, but then Pegula rattles off 4 consecutive games and wins that first set 6-4. Pegula is such a great ball striker. She might not hit the ball as hard as some of the other players like Anisimova and Sabalenka, but she uses the pace of the opponent. She is incredibly consistent, and it is not a surprise that she reaches the late stages of the most important tournaments so frequently. So up a set, this was a great chance for Pegula to make it into another US Open final, but Sabalenka is a champion. She's mentally strong. And unfortunately, Sabalenka gets the label of being mentally weak because she has lost a lot of heartbreaking matches in general, but especially this year. Australian Open final against Madison Keys, Roland Garros final against Coco Gauff, Wimbledon semi-final against Anisimova, all heartbreaking losses. But one thing that Sabalenka always does is bounce back quickly. She doesn't let these losses linger. So while in one specific match, there might be some mental game challenges that Sabalenka faces, but when it comes to being resilient, coming back strong, having a short memory, so to speak, she is one of the mentally strongest players on the WTA Tour, and she deservedly therefore has the #1 ranking because she's the most consistent player at the most important tournaments. So in the second set, Sabalenka bounces back and breaks Pegula in her first service game. She ends up winning that second set quite comfortably. In the third, it gets very interesting because Sabalenka is up a break, and in the next 3 consecutive service games of Sabalenka, Pegula had chances to break back. She had 15-40 in one game. Another game went over deuce. And now it's Sabalenka up 5-4 serving for the match. She's up 40-15. She hits a very aggressive forehand. Pegula scrambles and pops the ball up. And it's very high, and it's going to be one of those bouncing overheads. And a lot of people call this an easy shot. But in tennis, there is no such thing as easy shots. Of course, some shots are going to be easier to put away than others. But if you perceive a shot as easy, you're going to make that particular shot very difficult. And that's why I say there are no easy shots in tennis. Play every shot with the same amount of intensity and focus. Now, I'm not saying that Sabalenka displayed a lack of focus on this ball because she ended up missing the overhead. But I want to point out that this overhead, while it appeared easy, the ball went way over to Sabalenka's right. So it bounced kind of weird. And my point is that even if a ball appears easy, you never know how it's going to react off the ground exactly. So you have to always play every ball in tennis with an incredible amount of intensity. So now it's 40-30. Sabalenka has a half-court forehand that she can normally put away for a winner, or at least hit it very aggressively and get an easy ball back. But she kind of rolls this forehand down the line, and Pegula shows why she is one of the best ball strikers on the WTA Tour and rifles a two-handed backhand at Sabalenka's shoelaces. At deuce, Sabalenka hits a fearless two-handed backhand cross-court winner. And on the following point, she plays very aggressive and wins this semifinal match 6-4 in the third. In the final between Anisimova and Sabalenka, it's going to come down to who handles the pressure better. And in the head-to-head between these two, Anisimova was dominant very early on, winning 4 straight. And since then, they've been going back and forth, and it's 6-3 overall for Anisimova in the head-to-head. So she plays Sabalenka really well, and she's going to have a golden opportunity to win her first Grand Slam title. Off the ground, Anisimova has a better backhand, but Sabalenka has a slight advantage on the forehand. While many people call the Sabalenka forehand flat, she does put quite a bit of RPMs on the forehand. So it's a topspin forehand with a flat trajectory, somewhat similar to Jannik Sinner. If you want to know in more detail what the differences are between a flat forehand and a forehand with a flat trajectory that has a high amount of RPM, you can check out a recent video that I made on that subject. But Anisimova hits more of an old school WTA forehand that is more of a flat topspin forehand. Again, if you want to know in more detail what a flat topspin forehand is, you can check out a video that I made a while back on that subject. But in any case, I do think that Sabalenka has a little bit more control on her forehand. However, Sabalenka at certain times doesn't position herself well on the forehand, and she has to make improvisations. She also sometimes will decelerate on her forehand, let the ball sit up a little bit, and that's going to be an advantage for Anisimova. So overall, the advantage is for Sabalenka. However, if Anisimova, with her improved new forehand technique, is hitting the ball well off that side, it's going to be somewhat equal. However, on the backhand side, I do believe that there's going to be an advantage for Anisimova. On the serve, I think it's pretty even. And on the return of serve, I would give the advantage on the forehand return for Sabalenka. And of course, on the backhand return, the advantage goes to Anisimova. Now, of course, in any Grand Slam final, the mental game is extremely important. And while Amanda has recovered from that Wimbledon loss, she is yet to find her best tennis in a final, because the last two times she was in a final, it was more the mental game that cost her those matches. So the Queen's final against Maria, she normally beats Maria on any surface, but Maria was slicing and dicing everything, and Amanda basically beat herself in that match. And of course, we discussed the Wimbledon final against Iga. While she could have, of course, lost to Iga even if she played her best tennis, her losing 0-0 displayed some mental challenges. In other words, she was nervous, she was tight, and also on top of all that, she might have been tired in that match from that long semi-final win against Sabalenka. So Anisimova is going to have to display a lack of nerves against Sabalenka, because if she comes out in this final shaky, I do think Sabalenka is going to come through. But I do believe that Anisimova worked hard after that Wimbledon loss. If she hadn't, this result would be impossible. And I do think that when you have traumatic matches like that Wimbledon final, you can let these matches destroy you, or you can learn from them. And it is my belief that Anisimova has learned from this match. So I think the likelihood of Amanda coming out in the US Open final nervous, tight, is very low. I do think she's going to find her best tennis. And if she does, she is highly capable of beating Sabalenka. But again, Sabalenka is a warrior. She bounces back from tough defeats, and she wants this US Open title really badly because she's lost 2 Grand Slam finals this year. And on top of all that, she lost to Anisimova in the Wimbledon semifinals. So Sabalenka wants revenge. This is going to be a very interesting match to watch.